Okay, recording this video for close trade Wednesday, 18th of March 2015. Well, there we go, another nutty FOMC day under our belts. The usual kind of FOMC trading pattern, not much of anything during the morning session. And then as soon as the announcement comes out at 1 p.m. Chicago time, all hell breaks loose. We had about 40 plus points of range on the E-mini. We kind of briefly got up under 2100 and then a little bit of kind of weakness into the close. But it was crazy stuff. We had huge volatility on the bond market and also all of the Forex contracts today. And the Forex contracts is what I want to talk about because it was almost like a panic day today. Let me just show you what happened on Forex. So this is the dollar index, Forex futures, and this is the range of today. You know, a couple of days ago we were up at 100, and then today we traded down into like 94s and then closed up at 98s. That is a panic day where people thinking, oh, should have taken profits in my long dollar index contract, need to, as it starts to weaken, they kind of desperately sell out. But that's how we closed out today with that huge kind of range. And that similar type of panic activity was happening across all of the different Forex futures contracts. So here's the euro. So the euro traded down a couple of days ago to 104. We're up at 109 today. British pound, again, huge ranging kind of blue professional bar there. Canadian dollar, same deal. Japanese yen, it's less extreme on the Japanese yen, but still pretty big kind of ranging bar day there. And then here's the Aussie dollar. A couple of days ago we were under 76, we're now up at 77 on the Aussie dollar. And the Aussie is what I want to talk about today. But just as an overview, if you kind of want to look at the big picture on the Forex futures kind of contracts and see what's going on, this is a useful chart setup. Obviously on a small recording screen this looks kind of pretty ordinary, but on a big screen it looks really nice, and you can start to see all of the turning points kind of move together because everything moves against the US dollar with different kind of strengths. I keep the carry trade currencies over here on the left hand side, so the dollar index and the Japanese yen. Then the European currencies with the euro and the British pound over in the middle. The euro is obviously the largest component of the dollar index, so that's a really important kind of pair there. And then lastly, the commodity-based currencies with the Aussie dollar and the Canadian dollar on the right-hand side. But that as a grouping is really handy because you can start to see the big picture when everything starts to turn and kind of move together. But the Aussie dollar is the one I want to talk about specifically today because we've had a really nice run up in the dollar index and a sell-off in the Aussie dollar over the last kind of year and a half. Now, some of you might know that I try to keep my trading currency in the strongest currency possible, and that's been the US dollar over the last kind of year and a half. But at the end of last week, I took off some of that money, so I closed out a third of my long US dollar short Aussie dollar and moved that money into the Aussie dollar. Now it's only a third of the total position, so I'm just taking profits on a very nice kind of move that we've had so far. Looks kind of good today. I'm not suggesting that's the end of this trend, but I think it's a place where we might find a little bit of a reaction back up, so I'm happy to kind of be out of that long US and short Aussie dollar kind of position for the time being. But let's kind of go back in time a little bit and see how this whole thing started out and why this last week's activity was really important on the Forex futures contracts. I'm going to show you two types of charts on these three different currencies. So I'm going to show you the dollar index, the euro, and then the Aussie lastly. But the two types of charts I'm going to show you are going to be the commitment of traders charts, which are weekly and monthly here, with the commitment of traders numbers below those price bars. And then what I'm calling the global macro charts here, which are the better indicators on a daily and a weekly chart, and you can start to see kind of the big picture with those two kind of chart setups. So first of all, commitment of traders I find kind of interesting. Years ago I spent a lot of time chasing the commitment of traders numbers down and doing a lot of analysis on them and using them kind of directionally. These days lost the love a little bit in commitment of traders, but still they're very important for kind of longer term pictures, and they've been classic kind of setups here for the Forex futures contracts over the last couple of years, and so they are worth tracking on a regular basis. The last signals that we had 10 months ago with the dollar index were these bullish divergence patterns here. Now I've taken the commitment of traders numbers, I've flipped them upside down so they're moving in the same direction as price is here, and then I look for divergence patterns, commitment of traders versus price. And here we go. On the weekly chart here we had these beautiful little divergence patterns at the beginning of 2014 which set up for this monster move in dollar index. So the dollar index has traded up from about 80 to 100 a couple of days ago, so that's a 25% move. And you can also see that those similar divergence patterns were showing up on the monthly charts as well here. So that was a really kind of important level for the dollar index. Now at that time we had an equally kind of important kind of setup here. I was thinking that we may be kind of trading down to new lows on the dollar index until this blue professional, spiking blue professional bar kind of came in down here at the lows, and we had a classic little reversal trade where we had a spike down blue professional bar and it just reversed and went above the highs of that. In the background here you can see that we had kind of amateurs selling with Rambo patterns kind of back here at that 80 level, but as soon as we came into that pattern again, the blue professional bars kind of stepped in and we raced away into this uptrend. Now I'm going to try and show you that same point on that chart on the daily chart of the dollar index. So here we go, just bear with me here. You can see on the daily chart here was a nice little pattern, pullback to end of trend with exhaustion sell on better momentum here, and then we had that brief little move down to new lows here, and then it was a U-turn. So blue professional bar kind of steps in and immediately buys up that little weakness, and bang, that's when we were away. As soon as we tested back into that level back here where the blue professional bars were buying it up, that held and we were away, racing into this uptrend here on the daily chart. Now on the daily chart we've had a couple of areas where we had pullback to end of trend and exhaustion buy. That wasn't enough to kind of roll us over. What it did show was that we were going to get, it was the end of that trending move and we would go into consolidation for a while, which is what we did. And then as soon as we had these blue professional bars kind of came in bouncing off resistance becomes support, we kind of move again into another uptrending move. Now this later activity had a whole bunch of blue professional bars taking profits up here at 100 on the index with exhaustion buy kind of going on, pullback to end of trend sequence and so on. So that for me meant that, you know, on the dollar index it was an important kind of turning point. If you look at the weekly chart, it was also a big blue professional up bar there at 100. So we'd had kind of breakout bars here. We know these are breakout bars because we trade above the highs of those blue professional bars. As soon as we kind of come in and buy this little retrace here, we know that we're away to the upside. So these are strong buying blue professional bars. This one is taking profits as a blow off move up to 100. We're going to have another kind of exhaustion pattern on the weekly chart there. So we set off in this move in the dollar index with that kind of reversal pattern kind of down here. We had strength on commitment of traders, showing us that, you know, there was a likely turning point kind of happening here, and then we blasted into this uptrend. Now we've still got to make pullback to end of trend on the weekly chart here, but all we've signaled is a little bit of profit taking and a left shoulder with this move of dollar index up to 100. And again, it's like, you know, psychologically important round number like that on the 100. So that was a good psychological area to be thinking about taking profits. Similarly, we had a similar type pattern on the euro. So if the dollar index is going up, the euro is going down, and the same thing happening here. So this is back in leading up into May 2014. We had bearish divergence patterns here on the commitment of traders numbers here, both on the weekly chart and on the monthly chart here. Bang, 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 bang. And we kind of sold off. This has been a massive move in the euro, and everybody's talking about going to parity and maybe down to 80. Well, you know, those are going to be important levels kind of on the way down, but what we've had is a little bit of profit taking down here at what ended up being 104. So in the background we got weakness here because of the commitment of traders starting to roll over. That happens, you know, divergence patterns always signal a little bit early, and when those have kind of played themselves out, we can see this trending move kind of develop from there. Now what we happened on the weekly, daily and weekly charts on the euro here, we had a beautiful little pullback to end of trend. It was fairly weak in terms of buying. There was nothing kind of going on in terms of exhaustion buy patterns there, but on the weekly chart at least, it was a Rambo pattern into those new highs. We'd seen some professional kind of profit taking kind of up here before, but as soon as we broke that support on the weekly chart here, bounced off support, support becomes resistance, bang, we're into a downtrend here. Now, there's not been blue professional down bars taking profits on the euro kind of down here. I still think the euro is weak, I still think the Aussie's weak, I still think the USD is strong, but it's just a place where we're going to get a little bit of a pause from this downtrend. So that's kind of gone on the weekly chart here. Let's see if I can show you this kind of turning point on the daily chart of the euro here. What did we end up seeing? So in the background here it was pullback to dirty end of trend. So there we go. So there's the pullback level, and there's this break. That's a dirty end of trend signal because the pullback level was violated into those highs, Rambo patterns, and that blue professional down bar is selling the market down. So bang, the professionals sell it down. We know they're selling it down because the lows get broken. The next bar is a blue professional down bar. The lows of that get broken, bang, we're into downtrend. Any kind of retrace back up doesn't even really make it to the low of that blue professional bar, and we're off down to the downside here. Now, what have we got at the end of this kind of pattern here? Pullback to end of trend. It's been more blue professional bars on the daily chart coming here at 104. It's a flush pattern, flushing out the last of those sellers at that point. So again, another kind of area where we're likely to see just a pause in that downtrend, a little bit of profit taking on the way down. So that's dollar index and the euro, but the chart I really want to show you is the Aussie dollar chart here because it's kind of been a classic. So the weakness in the Aussie dollar was set up a year before that. It was kind of in May 2013 that we had the Aussie dollar kind of peak top out here. It was over parity with the US dollar. I put out an important kind of couple of series of posts, one called "Is the Aussie dollar going to crash?" setting out the argument for a crash in the Aussie dollar, and that's what we've had from kind of parity up here down to 76 over the last couple of days. So the monthly chart was showing that weakness in 2013 with bearish divergence patterns here. You can see one on the weekly chart there, and then when we came back into this kind of turning point kind of in the low 90s, it didn't signal kind of bearish divergence patterns here, but we knew we were in a downtrend because of that move, and we had all of those bearish divergence patterns on the other currencies and bullish divergence on the dollar index. So this kind of continued down, but it was weak from a year prior to that. Then if we look at these charts on the weekly and daily charts using the better indicators, what did we do? We topped out. It took a long time to top out on the Aussie dollar. We had pullback to end of trend, we had exhaustion buy and bearish divergence come in, and that parity level here on the Forex futures was Rambo patterns up here, amateur up bars into those trying to break to new highs, and we just could not break, and that was the important bar on the weekly chart there. Sell down bar, and then we come briefly, test back up into it, resistance holds, and we sell it down, bang, at that point there. You can see those blue professional bars selling it down. That was the first sign of weakness in 2013. Kept on down, we kind of bounced back into that area here at the bottom of that kind of sell down area, and there's a couple of blue professional bars on the weekly chart, and that's what led to the last kind of sell-off here. Now again, no blue professional bars kind of come in here on the weekly chart. I still think this is got to travel down. We've got to put in those exhaustion sells again, blue professional bars, pull back to under trend on the weekly chart. But on the daily chart, you can see that it's kind of an area where we could find some support. So we've had some pullback to end of trends. We've had exhaustion sell kind of down here, blue professional bars kind of coming in at these lows, and as soon as we were breaking back down into below 76s, I was thinking, well, I've done nicely out of this trade, so let's kind of just take some profits and jump out for the time being. So I don't think the downtrend is over in terms of these currency versus the USD, but I do think we found a place where we could have a little bit of support kind of come in and a little bit of a reaction back, maybe a short covering rally or something like that. Definitely with today's activity on the dollar index, what I think happened today was that was a bit of panicking. So people thinking a couple of days ago should have taken profits up here at 100, and as soon as the market started to weaken anything, they were like just jumping out of that really kind of quickly. Obviously it kind of did close strong, but it was showing an area that's kind of significant in terms of this trend. So happy to have taken profits on a little bit of my short Aussie. And just to let you know, these the better indicators do work on the Forex futures contracts. Don't use them on the cash contracts because you don't get volume data for Forex cash, but the Forex futures are good for that. And these are a useful kind of combinations to look at if you're looking at commitment of traders numbers. just looking at the weekly and the monthly chart with some kind of divergence indicator, and then the daily and weekly charts using the better indicators to look at the kind of the big picture here on what I'm calling the global macro type stuff. So hope your trading is going well.